on, let's go outside. Let's take a walk in the sun. There are things to learn and things to see. A big wide world for you, your dog, and me. Dog Talk. Hi, everybody, and welcome to Dog Talk. I'm Pat Becker. This is Devin Davis. How are you?
Doing well.
And Devin is from the Heartland CPR. And today's show, we're going to discuss some kind of serious issues, how to take care of your dogs in emergencies, and figure out how to have a plan in case these, goodness, we hope that doesn't, but things happen. So we're going to talk about CPR and about all of the kind of things that we can do for our dogs. Devin, there is a process, definitely a process with dogs, and it differs a little from humans. So this little dog that you have here, who is very quiet and nice, I might say, good manners. So if he has a problem, how do we recognize that our dogs need CPR?
Well, I mean, you'll initially start tapping them, see if they're alert, make sure they're not just deaf.
Mm-hmm. So would they stumble, fall over?
Generally, you'd find them lying around, just because dogs will lie around a lot of the time.
Okay.
But you can always check their pulse, which is located right here, in between where the groin meets the inner thigh. Mm-hmm. You can just feel that pulse in there.
So you put your fingers there.
Just two fingers,
the two fingers right there, and you can feel whether or not the dog has a pulse.
Mm-hmm. And if they are laying on their right side, you can actually feel their heartbeat as well. So if for some reason they don't have a heartbeat, then you would know.
Should you roll them over on their right side?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
They would for CPR, which you would only do in the case of CPR. Don't practice it at home, obviously. But you would just make sure they are on their right side, so their left side is facing up, and then you can give 15 compressions and then 2 breaths into their nose. You would just make sure you seal their mouth.
Okay, and so what is this that we have here?
This is just the lungs for the dummy. So these obviously your dog's not gonna have a Ziploc
obviously
bag
you're not going to put a bag on your dog's nose.
That'll definitely harm them.
So what is the process then? How many pushes do you do, and how hard should it be?
You would do 15 compressions. We'll pretend I've done 15, and then you'll come down and give 2 breaths, just until you see that chest slightly rise.
Okay, now, so I see you holding the dog's nose like that. Mm-hmm. Is that to keep his mouth closed?
Correct. With a smaller dog, you can seal their whole mouth with their snout with your mouth.
Okay. So the important thing is to get it through the nostrils. Mm-hmm. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. Yeah, you can't breathe into a dog's mouth because they're much wider than ours.
Right.
Excluding pugs or anything like that. So
in case, how long would it take in a normal process if the dog was going to come back to life or be saved? How long would that process take? Do you know? I
mean, it can take any amount of time. I mean, you may not save the dog, but at least you're trying. You know, you're going to hear some ribs cracking in there. You're going to hear all sorts of things you don't want to hear on your dog, but it beats the alternative. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I know that Edmund Fire actually resuscitated a dog this week with CPR. Mm-hmm. So I think they did it for close to 5-6 minutes, and then the dog came back.
So they just didn't give up. That's wonderful.
Correct.
So then immediately, I guess, if the dog is resuscitated, you should get it to your vets or to a veterinarian who can evaluate the condition of the dog at that time, which is really, really important. So how often would you say that this happens? Do you know?
I don't have any numbers on it specifically, but I mean, dogs get hit by cars every day, and they, will go unconscious and then eventually bleed out or just die from those injuries.
Something like that. Yeah, and we always say too, if you find a dog that has been hit, be very careful, because the first emotional response is to go and get that dog. You want to be careful if you have a scarf or a piece of cloth to put it around the dog's mouth so the dog doesn't bite, because obviously they're going to be in great trauma. Mm-hmm. To be very, very careful, if you have any kind of board in your car, to slip the dog onto the board so that in case there are broken bones, it doesn't happen. Now you're going to have to slip something around them. Help is always good. One person is almost impossible to help that way. 2 people, it's much better. But immediately get the dog out of the street and into any kind of emergency facility. Mm-hmm. So we have a bunch of things here I see, and I know that you sell these. These are pet kits for the first aid, and so tell me a little bit about what you should have.
Well, this emergency water is always good, especially if you're going to be hiking and you'll have this first aid kit. They've got a little emergency bowl here that'll just collapse out, and then you can open up this water. I mean, it's good for you also, obviously. They do expire after about 5 or 6 years, but hopefully you'll need them before then. This is also pretty neat. This is a little thermometer that instead of doing it rectally, you'll actually just place it on the dog's belly, and it'll give you a reading of their temperature. And those come in all those first aid kits.
My gosh, that's incredible.
Yeah.
It really is. And I noticed that you have a leash here that is metal. And I'm assuming that the metal is because if you do store it, then it will not wear the way a leather or one of these cotton ones would happen.
Yeah, and it would generally be if they get in a fight with another dog, you'd be able to get that other dog to a tree or something like that.
Yes, to restrain it, obviously. You have tongue depressors, and what would that be for?
I mean, you could see if there was an object in the throat of the animal or in the throat of your kid.
So if they
even.
were coughing or having a seizure or something like that?
You wouldn't want to put it in their mouth if they're having a seizure. They could bite it and then choke on it.
All right. So in case of a seizure?
Just keep them comfortable, just like you would a person. You don't put anything in their mouth. I mean, people have gotten their fingers bitten off that way, so don't do that.
Exactly. There are scissors and tweezers in here, which is excellent, if, as you say, to pull something out of the dog's throat if it was in there. And stranger things have happened than they do a Heimlich on a dog.
Correct.
Right? So with your doing a Heimlich, do you know how to do a Heimlich on a dog?
I do. I can't do it on this dummy, but what you
hand us this one
can I
over
have
here.
That guy?
I bet you we can. We can do it on this golden retriever.
Now, what you would do, depending on the size, I mean, I know there are a lot of larger dogs, but what you would do is you would hold them upside down, find where their ribs end, and then give 5 thrusts into their belly, hopefully dislodging that object. If for some reason they do go unconscious, just like with a human, you would go straight into CPR with them. So.
Okay, so if it isn't dislodged at that particular time and they go into have a seizure and pass out or something like that, then you would administer the CPR.
Correct, you would, because the thinking there is that either those compressions are going to push that object up in the throat, you'll be able to grab it, or those ventilations are going to push the object down into the lungs or into the belly, ideally.
Exactly. So how valuable is this information for a dog owner, would you say?
I mean, it's crucial. I mean, I don't know what I'd do if I didn't know how to do it for my little Reba. So.
And your Reba is?
She's a little Chiweenie, and she's 3. Yeah.
Now, all right, that brings up another issue for me. When they're that tiny, when they're that small, how do you give them CPR?
You can use one hand. If it's a cat, you can give one-handed compressions like that. But with a dog, you can always just do that. But you'll adjust the length you go. You can go anywhere from 1/2 inch to 2 inches on a dog.
Oh, okay, even a Chiweenie. So then let's go to the opposite. What about a huge dog, a Mastiff or a golden retriever?
Yeah, about 2 to 2.5 inches would be ideal.
Okay.
Just make sure you're clipping that heart.
Yeah, and that's the important thing. And when you feel the heart then, do you immediately then back off? Do you immediately stop?
Well, yeah, if they have a pulse and they're breathing on their own normally, then yeah, and then you would definitely want to take them to a vet because you've probably broken some ribs.
Yeah, it's certainly possible. So all of this, though, you at the Heartland CPR, you teach people how to do these things, don't you?
I do.
And so I assume that, because all of us here would be very interested in it. So do people have a certificate or something when they leave? Do they? Yeah,
they'll leave with a card. And on the inside of the card, you can actually put all your pet's information as far as like their vet, their weight, their temperature. And we kind of go over how to know if, they have any internal bleeding or anything like that, so you can know what their normal blood pressure would be.
So what I meant to say is, if they can do it themselves, then they might help if they saw a dog in distress of somebody else's.
For sure.
Right? Some other owners. Well, that's wonderful. So how do we get in touch with you if we want to take this course?
Well, our phone number is 405-603-6666, or you can enroll directly through our website at heartlandcpr.com.
That's just excellent. Thank you so much, Devin. I really appreciate it. You tell your mom and dad I say hi, by the way.
Will do.
Excellent. They are all in this kind of business, and we appreciate them and you. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about another serious issue.
A1 Pet Emporium is Oklahoma's authority on healthy nutrition for dogs and cats. Quality does not have to cost more, and we only have the best. If your pet suffers from allergies, digestive issues, skin infections, or hair loss, it may be the result of their diet. A1 Pet Emporium can help. We offer pet portraits monthly, adorable rescue animals every Saturday from noon to 4, and free dog and cat food samples. Locally owned and operated, we want to be your neighborhood pet store.
One of the most tragic, dramatic things that can happen to your animals is to get caught in a house fire. We all pray that that never happens for us, but having a plan is a very good thing. Recently, we had a friend who had one of these tragic events. I'd like for you to see her story.
This was my dining room. There was an antique oval drop leaf table right here. And right here, my mother's curio cabinet, or set with her elephant collection. Right here. The glass was not broken. It was right here. This is where my husband sat day in and day out every day. He's disabled. He was in the hospital already. And that was a blessing, because I don't know that I could have gotten him out myself. This was my kitchen, which I loved, dearly loved. It was the big kitchen I always wanted. All of my grandkids' pictures were right here, and they were not saved. When the fire started, he had an abscessed tooth. His room is completely burned. He came and ran and got me out of the bathtub, and the flames were coming from the laundry room. My bathrobe was hanging on the back of the closet door over here, and I just grabbed it and I ran out of the house. My son came in and out of the house I don't know how many times to try to find Annabelle. We couldn't find her anywhere. We just knew she was gone. She just was gone. The bedroom was in flames, just total flames. And my mother's cedar chest sat right there at the end of my bed. And my son Chris came over first light the morning after, because he knew I was frantic. And Annabelle came out from under the cedar chest. She was black. She wasn't blonde like she is now, but she was black. And she had a little smoke inhalation, but other than that, she was fine. She made it. She hasn't been out of my sight since. This is the laundry room, and the water heater was on the other side of that wall. This is where the fire started. It was just shooting out of the ceiling above here. And it just went fast. I believe that my mother was here. She protected Annabelle. It was a terrible tragedy. I just can't even describe to anyone what it's like. But I know that God was with us. My mother had his hand, was holding his hand. And it's just by the grace of God that all of the animals made it out.
Hey Dog Talk fans, coming up next time on the show, we're going to meet Crew. Crew is possibly the biggest living dog right now. Look at him. He's a pretty big guy. In the meantime, join the conversation on Facebook.com/DogTalkTV. Check out Crew's Facebook too. Just search Crew Madden and join us next time to meet this gentle giant.
Sad, absolutely. Emotionally devastating. But it's really important to learn how to help your dog. This dog was saved simply because it hid, and the firemen got there in time. So we need to have a plan, and we need to have some facility. I'd like to introduce today, doctor, I consider you a physician. There you go.
We do function under
Yes.
one license anyway.
Absolutely. We just went through all of that. But this is Chief Beagle from the Deer Creek Fire Department. Welcome, for goodness sakes.
Thank you for having us.
And Mark Edwards, we have had you on the show before from the Oklahoma City group, and we are so pleased that you are here. During the times that we have all of these fires that happen, it seems to me I hear more often than not of animals having to be rescued. Am I right?
That is correct. And in fact, it's made the local news quite a few times in the recent past with, I believe it was Midwest City that had a pet save, Edmond, and then Guthrie as well have had pet saves in the last few months.
Yeah, you know, and it does, this is a matter of fact, you know, that it does happen. But there are a few things that I have learned when I did my research, such as, you know, if you can crate or kennel your dog or have your dog in the room with you at night, that really helps. If you have all of the dog's information in your bedroom somewhere, if you have all of your wallets and keys and everything with you, dogs have a tendency, if something happens and there's an emergency, to run and hide under something. It is their way of doing it. It's their instinct. So we need to know exactly how to have a plan to keep this from happening. So in lieu of a plan, you all come through and resuscitate these dogs in an emergency, and it is unbelievably good. Now, we have found that some of the groups here in Oklahoma use these resuscitators, I will call them, the masks and the oxygen tanks and what have you, to bring a dog back to life, so to speak. So when they are in a fire, something like that, of course, heat rises. Does smoke rise?
Yes.
You bet. And the thing about it, when we go into a house fire, we're always going to perform a primary and a secondary search. Now, we're looking for live humans, but we're also going to get all the canines or the cats or the pets in the house as well, because the same exact systematic search that we make. Now, when we arrive on scene, you know, those citizens come out and they're frantic. My dog's inside, my dog's inside. We're going to go in, we're going to locate them, and we're going to bring them out. Now, previously, prior to you purchasing these for us, we use everything that we use for infants, but this will deliver such a higher concentration and more efficiently to the canines or the kittens or whatever pets.
Yeah, you know, when we were looking for this, and we'll do a little brief demonstration if we could here. We brought our little golden retriever in. So when that happens, now they are of different sizes. This dog looks like it might be that size. Am I right? So what what happens with there? Does the
Basically, we'd just have this line hooked up direct to oxygen, and then it just slips over and it forms a seal around the mouth. Whereas before, using the human non-rebreathers and everything, you have a lot of oxygen loss that's not getting as much direct flow to the animal, so it's just not as beneficial. The main purpose is just trying to refresh and revive the animal. And then we also have the options of, with an adapter to put onto the bag valves to be able to actually do breaths like we would on a human with compressions.
So these are
and
squeezed
CPR.
That's right.
like
To
that
actually deliver the breath themselves. So.
Oh, and that is so interesting to me. Yeah, we are really pleased to facilitate this kind of thing because it is so necessary. And I might add, folks, these units are not that expensive. If you are living in a rural area and you have a fire facility, the fire chiefs and firemen out there, this would be an excellent investment for that community and a wonderful donation if you could do that. So tell me then again, I just find it unbelievable that you would take your life and your sense of caring into the house after an animal. And it's obviously, it would be easier not to. You've got the humans out, so it would be more simple. But why do you do it? What do you feel?
It's a sense of accountability. I mean, we're trained, we're expected to do that. We're going in looking for live humans, but we're in there and we're going to be very thorough and we're going to bring those pets out. Because it's amazing, you know, those pets are part of the family. And that person loses their entire life worth of, you know, belongings and everything else. All their assets are gone. And you bring that dog out and all of a sudden that sense of calmness, you know, comes back to them. Their house is gone, everything's gone, But here's that part of the family. And it's a pet, it's not a person, but to them, it's the same.
It's part of the family. And you know, I know too, in the Deer Creek area, there's so many areas around here that are all just darn near rural. They're so far out. So how many times does this happen, would you say, in your area?
In my experience, we've been able to bring out, and I would say within the last 3 years, we've been able to save at least 3 pets from fires. And it's like you say, they do instinctively hide. They're typically in a closet corner or under a bed. And so like Mark said, you know, during our search, as we're going through systematically, you know, when we feel the animal, we're going to go ahead and remove them as well. And it's, like he said, it's a little ray of hope in the midst of something that's pretty devastating to a family, to be able to have their animals survive as well.
Yeah, you know, and that's the beauty of it. As Devin and I were talking before with the CPR and everything, you know, obviously all firemen and people associated with it know how to do the CPR and that sort of thing. But it is so good to advise people, to tell people. And the important thing is, if you do have a smell of smoke or something like that, and you have time to get those animals, get those kids, and get them outside. Folks, I just can't say enough about the firemen in our state. They do such a fantastic job. And you know, also, Mark Edwards happens to be a man who works for the Search Dog Foundation, and we are so pleased that you do. Recently on our Facebook page, we had a contest, and people voted for the organization, the national organization that they held most in high esteem. And guess who won? The Search Dog Foundation.
Very nice, very nice.
So we want to
Great.
present this this check for
Well, thank you very
$1,000.
much.
We're going to
That
let
was
you
excellent.
send that
All right.
to everybody out there at the Search Dog Foundation, and give them our best.
I will, yes,
and
ma'am.
just
Thank
keep
you.
on keeping on. So how is it going with the Search Dog team?
Well, we're in need of canines. The canines that we have are getting older, and so this will go towards training and everything else, and bringing new canines into the state. So,
Good.
but yes, absolutely. Thank you very much.
No, thank you. Thank all of you, and thank you so much, Devin, and you know.
Yes, absolutely.
It is so valuable to all of us, and we appreciate it.
And thank you for thinking of us with this. as
Oh,
well.
absolutely, absolutely. So, folks, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, Trish Clark is here.
A1 Pet Emporium is Oklahoma's authority on healthy nutrition for dogs and cats. Quality does not have to cost more, and we only have the best. If your pet suffers from allergies, digestive issues, skin infections, or hair loss, it may be the result of their diet. A1 Pet Emporium can help. We offer pet portraits monthly, adorable rescue animals every Saturday from noon to 4, and free dog and cat food samples. Locally owned and operated, we want to be your neighborhood pet store.
It's always good to see you, Trish. I swear to goodness, every time I look up, you're involved in another thing. How do you do it?
I don't even know how I do it, to be honest with
I mean,
you.
you run it's 2 stores. You have all of this inventory, all of the events at your stores. What are some of the events that you have at your stores,
Well,
just to
you know,
reiterate?
almost every weekend we have a different rescue that comes in and has animals for adoption, and
Right.
they could
So-
be anywhere.
And you've got a place for that,
Yes,
especially, which makes
we call
it really
it the
nice.
playroom. We have a playroom in both stores, so it's really kind of nice. And we have it to where the rescues can come and they can actually let their dogs or cats, you know, kind of run free. So that way they're not all in cages and everything like that.
Exactly.
And you can actually see the personalities of the animals.
And the thing that I really impresses me every time I talk with someone and they are talking about all of the foods that they get in your store, they're not just the standard foods. There are so many that are so good, and I am so proud that you are one of our sponsors, because
Oh.
it is the esteem is really high.
Thank
when
you.
people think of A1 Pet Emporium, they think of all of the foods that they need that are specialty foods for their dogs.
Right.
If the dog comes in and you say, you know, how is your dog? Well, he's got a little indigestion.
Tummy ache or yeah.
If they come in and say, my dog has been diagnosed with
Pancreatitis or
diabetes,
Right.
any of these things,
we can help them.
you can help them. You've got the food that helps them. And that is what is so impressive about it. And the events that you hold, and of course you are involved in so many outside events, and that the food pantry thing
Pet food
last
pantry
week
is
was
We've been doing that since we started in 2010, and we're really passionate about the pet food pantry. There's just too many people out there that, especially senior citizens and so forth, that just they can't afford to feed their animals, and so they're a great organization.
It is a great organization, and of course you have the value of your relationship with them is enormous, you know, and they have told me, Kim and her husband have said, you know, if it weren't for Trish and Brent, you know, we would be struggling. So this is the truth. You know, to have them have to beg for food from these different organizations is so absurd. You are such a genius to come up with the way to facilitate that.
We try to do what we can. We
Yeah,
really
well,
do.
obviously it's better than everything.
That's right. It's better than a kick in the pants.
Much better than that. So tell me, you have another event that I think is coming up.
We also sponsor the American Cancer Society's Bark for Life events.
And when is that?
Well, there's actually 3 of them this year. The first one is April 2nd. It's called the Strolling Colon, and it's to bring awareness to colon cancer, which is it's the second leading most diagnosed cancers every year.
Wow.
People don't realize that.
Well, you need to bring somebody on the show and talk about it.
I think we're going to work on that.
Great.
So we can do
Sounds-
that. But yeah, it's coming up April 2nd. It's a 5K or a 1 mile run walk.
Yeah.
You can bring your dog.
Oh, that's going to be
yeah.
excellent. Well, thank you so much for coming on. It's always a pleasure. As I say, I admire you so much.
Thank you.
You guys take care. And gosh, Trish, you know, just keep on keeping on. You know, just don't ever stop. I know that's hard to say. The problem is it becomes overwhelming, doesn't it?
It sometimes can be. Yeah.
Everybody that I know in this, as an animal advocate group, is overwhelmed, and maybe it's the time of the year, maybe it's the time of of what's going on in the world. I don't know.
I don't know. It can get overwhelming, and that's why I think the people that have such passion, like you and myself and all the other people out there that have passion for animals and humans, we need to do what we can.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much again. You know, I appreciate it. And guys, it has been great. This show, I hope, will resound with you. It will make you realize that when you have an emergency, you are prepared. There is a way for you to be prepared. So go to the Heartland CPR and be assured that the firemen at Deer Creek and at across the state, Oklahoma City firemen are going to have something that will help your dog. Take care, guys, and we will see you next week.
We're talking about dogs. Talking about big dogs, talking about little dogs, oh yeah. Chasing the ball, chasing the cat, digging holes, thing like that. Dogs, talking about dogs. Laughing dogs, sad dogs, happy dogs, mad dogs. Dogs, just talking about dogs. Lost and alone, running the street, checking the garbage, looking to eat. Out there sad and on their own, the law will get them if they got no home. Dogs, talking about dogs. Dogs, we're talking about dogs. You say they